In 1952, Mark Smith had a great idea. Stage a non-competitive event where four-wheel owners could tackle a tortuous trail between Georgetown and Lake Tahoe, California, simply to enjoy the beauty and challenge of the backcountry. It was called a Jeepers Jamboree. Since then, Jeep Jamborees have grown to encompass the four corners of the continental United States. 33 unique events highlighting some of America's magical places. All you need is a four-wheel drive and the spirit of adventure.
Wow, what a kick, and to get to visit the natural scenic wonders and to do it with such ease.
It gets you a chance to get out with your Jeep in the great outdoors, and this is what the Jeep is made for, to see this beautiful country.
And see it in a way that makes the journey as exhilarating as the destination.
It's a little bit dirty, though.
Well, up here, that's part of the ride, along with the beauty, adventure, and a rediscovery of the American outdoors. It all comes together in a jamboree of four-wheel driving fun. And once you've tried it, you too will say the way to go is 4x forever. These are the roads and trails that many of us deal with every day. Routes of noise, congestion, and obstacles.
There are those potholes and cracks that you curse, and then there are those that you celebrate. And celebration is what jamborees are all about. Hello everyone, I'm Greg Lewis on the Rubicon Trail just outside of Lake Tahoe, California. The most famous and infamous jamboree route there is. For four-wheeling enthusiasts, you could say the Rubicon gets a perfect 10 for challenging terrain, but then again, every jamboree nationwide does. It gets a perfect 10 for adventure, camaraderie, and fun. Every year there are dozens of jamborees you can join in every corner of the country. Explore the wooded majesty of Kentucky or the stark lunar landscape of California's Rubicon Trail. Enter the mysteries of the Florida Everglades, or go back in time to Colorado's gold rush days. But no matter where it takes place, each jamboree shows you your own backyard in a whole new light. There's an old piece of advice that says if you want to be happy, put a little color in your life. Well, in New England in autumn, that of course means the brilliant reds and yellows of maple leaves. And if you're a four-wheeling enthusiast participating in the Mohawk Trail Jamboree in western Massachusetts, it also means the color of laughter, of friends old and new, and sometimes, just sometimes, the color of mud. The Mohawk Trail is a route of history, long traversed by Native Americans on foot, and now a link between past and present. Here in this historic New England setting, participants will explore some of the most challenging four-wheel trails east of the Mississippi. Their leader, Jamboree founder, Mark Smith.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning. God, that's pretty weak. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We've got 130 vehicles from 18 states, 245 people. I remember one thing for those of you that have not been before with us. We adhere very, very much to the Tread Lightly program, which means when you go off-road, you drive only on designated roads and trails, respect the wildlife and the environment. We don't litter. We'll pick up and bring back what somebody else might have left out there, too. Keep the vehicle behind you in sight at all times. If you're going to stop and take a lot of pictures, don't block the trail. Pull over, let other people go on by. Go ahead and get in your vehicles. We should be hitting the road here in about 10-15 minutes. The Jamborees are organized as family events, and we've had our youngest participants have been 2 weeks old, and we've had people in their 80s. And it's a great experience for the people to go. They get in the backcountry, they're able to drive, see what their four-wheel drive vehicle is capable of doing, and actually to see country that most people would never be able to see.
And see it in a way that most people never thought possible. Do you have to be a four-wheeling expert to do this? Not as long as you've got an enthusiastic and positive attitude. and your Jamboree friends.
Well, I watched where the other cars went, so I knew the track, and then just go for it. And you just have to get a feel for the gas and see where the right feel, the right movement forward, and which way to go. I don't know, you just kind of go for it.
Out here, the only failure is in no longer trying, which means there are only setbacks. Eventually, everyone succeeds. These are special routes, often on private land, designated for this type of driving and learning.
I probably went too fast. Just had to back up a couple of times. A little guidance from my friends over there.
Hammer it like Choppy. Come on, do it.
Got us through the hole. Bent the license plate, but that's about it.
Well, the right hand's about up just above your hood, and the left-hand side's just below your hood. Here we go.
Learning the tricks and rules of four-wheeling on a supervised Jamboree ensures that off-road driving enthusiasts will use proper etiquette elsewhere when they're on their own. And you'll also discover that things you thought you couldn't do, maybe even wouldn't try, you can accomplish. Perhaps not on the first attempt. Maybe not even on the second. But with the right equipment, the supportive camaraderie of your fellow four-wheelers, a little practice and patience, you can reach your goals.
What a blast, huh? You see that?
Whether you're at a Jamboree in the Everglades of Florida, the Redwoods of California, or here high in the Rockies, there is a spirit that connects all of these events. And that is to soothe the soul by reaching places that regular roads just don't go. Nothing does that quite like the drive to a mountaintop, where you can take in a vista that pushes back the horizons of our common experience until they simply disappear. What awaits out here is yet another Jamboree adventure, Rocky Mountain style. It's just past dawn in Ouray, Colorado, a town they call the Gem of the Rockies. But local folks have been up for quite some time, flipping flapjacks and scrambled eggs for some 300 visitors who've come from 29 states and as far away as Germany to do something here that, well, you just can't do anyplace else. The first visitors to this area came about 600 years ago, the Ute Indians, and then it was the conquistadors, and a little more than a century ago, miners. But today, it's 150 Jeeps, and it's their Jamboree.
Ouray, for people that are new here, sits at 7,800 feet elevation. That's 1,000 feet higher than your highest mountain east of the Mississippi, and nobody lives on it. From here, we're going up, and we'll be crossing mountains over the next 2 days at 13,000 feet.
Here's a panorama you might have seen only in a picture book, but you can actually put yourself inside this picture. On these switchbacks, you can switch the clock back to a slower time, to a more relaxed pace of life.
You know, east, west, north, and south, the United States is beginning to look pretty much the same if you view it from just the interstate highways. But if you get off the four lanes and into four-wheeling, you can enjoy the beauty and breadth and diversity of America in a way that you never have before. It seems kind of foolish to just rush from point to point at 65 when you can cruise along at 10 miles per hour and enjoy the experience.
You're out here with this type of scenery, with all new friends, with all a common interest, which is the Jeep, and it's great.
It kind of does it for you. It takes it down the grades, you know, if you leave it in the low, you know, you just want to make sure that you're not pushing this thing, and it just kind of wants to do it itself. We spun a couple of places, but it's good.
Earlier today, we got a tip from one of the drivers behind us that we needed to let a little more air out of our tires because we were just slipping too much. We weren't getting enough traction, and so we let some air out, and piece of cake. It made all the difference in the world.
Whether you're letting a little air out of your tires or putting a little air underneath your tires, this Jamboree route will lead you to a place where the air is pure, The history as rich as the abandoned gold mines were when they made mere men into millionaires. Today, a new kind of richness abounds in the freedom of wide open spaces. And there's plenty of space in the day, too, for gathering with your new Jamboree friends and exploring a bit.
In 1873, prospectors looking for gold and silver discovered their precious metals at the confluence of 3 creeks of the Animas River. And so was born the town of Animas Forks. By 1885, there were some 450 summer residents who lived here. Not too many in the winter. Most folks left. It was just too cold. Even William W. Duncan departed, and he'd built the most elegant house in town, the bay window house. Imagine waking up every summer morning to that view.
Food just seems to taste better, and music sounds clearer up here. Perhaps it's the satisfaction of traversing trails and appreciating vistas that most people will only know secondhand. Yes, there's an extra quality to the day when you're on a Jeep Jamboree. When we return, we'll visit the toughest Jamboree trail there is on 4x4ever.
One of the early pioneers of this vehicle once called it short, squatty, and ugly as sin. Inelegant, incredible, and virtually indestructible.
But when it was first engineered and manufactured, primarily as a military vehicle for the Second World War, style wasn't the goal. They wanted a go-anywhere, do-anything, small, light, durable, general-purpose vehicle. And so was born the Jeep, from the Army's acronym for General Purpose, GP. This bouncing baby was all the military had hoped for, and more. In no time, Jeeps were rolling off the assembly line at a rate of 1 every 2 minutes, 30 an hour, to enter combat in Africa, Asia, the South Pacific, and Europe. A general-purpose vehicle for generals, like MacArthur, and even presidents. FDR got a Jeep when a limo wouldn't do. And on the most famous Jamboree route of them all, a limo would be simply laughable.
The first Jamboree was held over the Rubicon Trail, which goes from Georgetown to Lake Tahoe. This is considered to be the toughest four-wheel drive trail in the world and has a worldwide reputation. We rate all of our Jamborees and trails on a 1 to 10 scale, with a 10 being the most difficult. And a 1, of course, could be just two-wheel drive. A typical remark on the Rubicon Trail, if I had not seen the vehicle ahead of me, I would have turned around and gone back, because they don't even think it's possible.
But there is no turning back. To cross the Rubicon, as Julius Caesar learned when he crossed the Rubicon River in northern Italy, means just that. And with help from Mark Smith's son Greg, I got to conquer a little terrain myself.
Well, Greg, welcome to the Rubicon Trail.
You don't have to drive very far on the Rubicon to know this is quite different than being on the paved roads at home. Give me some basic tips that will help me out here.
Well, Greg, first you need to put it in low range, four-wheel drive, and in your lowest gear. There we go.
Maybe down, yeah.
When you're in drive, it tends to shift and go too fast over the rocks. You go basically as slow as possible to make the obstacle ahead of you. Speed and power are not necessary in the Rubicon. There's good traction on the granite.
What about braking? I mean, am I using 1 foot like I would on the regular road, or?
I prefer to drive with 2 feet. I use my left foot on the brake, my right foot on the gas, and kind of feather them back and forth until you feel comfortable. It takes a little practice, but in a short time you'll get used to it.
And holding the steering wheel, I mean, anything?
You want to keep your thumbs out of the center of the steering wheel at all times.
Okay.
In case you hit an obstacle, it'll spin the steering wheel and could possibly break your thumbs.
Okay, now we got some big rocks up here.
Okay.
Go over the top of them, or?
Always want to put your wheel on the high spots like it. You never want to straddle a boulder. Avoid that at all costs. That was a good job right there.
Well, thank you. Any special concerns about side hills or anything like that?
You want to avoid side hills all you can. You want to keep your vehicle perpendicular to the hill as much as possible. You can go a little bit, and there's no set rule on that. It depends on tire pressure, the type of material that you're on, whether it's rock, sand, or granite. Just the basic rule is avoid them. Any steep inclines you want to take at a 90-degree angle to the hill.
Okay, good.
In other words, with your front bumper square to the incline. These steps you've got coming up here, just ease up to them with a little bit of brake and just a little bit of gas and just a slight bit of momentum. Speed and power are not necessary in here, but momentum's your friend.
Going downhill, different from going uphill?
Going downhill is different. You use a little bit more brakes. In a standard transmission, you learn how to drive with your left foot completely on the floor. You don't touch the clutch at all and let it go downhill under compression, and maybe just a little bit of braking.
All right, now let's say you do get stuck. What are some basic ideas about
turn your wheels? Most people tend to use too much throttle when they're stuck because they panic. You just maintain a minimal amount of power and turn your steering wheel back and forth from right to left.
Okay.
And a lot of times that'll get you unstuck right there. And in a case like that, you've done it just right. You put your right front wheel on a big rock and your left front wheel on a big rock. Good job.
All right. Now I need another 20 years of experience, and I'll be as good as you are.
I've done this trail 22 times this year, and it's different every time you do it. A lot of it's just common sense once you've got the basics in practice, and you're already doing a fine job. You'll be a super Jeep driver in no time at all here.
I'm having fun. That's all I can tell you.
That's the main thing. We expect everybody to come out here and have fun on the Rubicon Trail.
Fun, in fact, is the fuel that makes all the Jamborees go. No wonder four-wheeling enthusiasts come from across the U.S. to explore one of the greatest gifts Mother Nature gave America, the Adirondack Mountains of upstate New York.
When we go into the backcountry, we are driving only on designated roads and trails. Many of these are old logging roads, and many of these are trails that go back 200-300 years. We definitely are not disturbing or hurting the environment. You drive slow and easy, you respect the wildlife and the environment, you don't litter. It's respecting the outdoors and enjoying it. And it's for all of us to do.
It's flat.
The deep mud, of course, is something you get into, especially east of the Mississippi. Generally, when we find these mud holes, we have to have one or two of our people there with tow straps. Most of our trails, if they're a 4 or above rating, tow hooks are required on the vehicles. And just strictly for the reason of the deep mud, that we have something we can hook on and pull them out.
If the most challenging thing your four-wheel drive vehicle faces is that drive from your house to the office or to the kids' school, it may be time to find out what it and you are really capable of.
That's brutal. That was brutal. That was great.
The adventure and the satisfaction are just waiting for you to turn the key and turn off the highway.
I think Jeeps and owning a Jeep is something very, very special. There is a bumper sticker out that says it's a Jeep thing you wouldn't understand. And I think you have to own a Jeep and know what it is. I know one fellow on one of the trips, he had a Jeep, it was painted pink, and on top of the hood he had a slot. And the name of his Jeep was My Piggy Bank. And it was obvious that he was putting all of his money into that Jeep.
It seems that these vehicles are more than just machines. Maybe they're more like a friend that brings out the best in you.
The car's never been in four-wheel drive before. We had it up to the eyes in mud.
We had a good time.
This is what I was meant to do all my life anyway. Now my kids can't complain about my driving anymore.
Nestled between the soaring peaks of the Colorado Rockies is historic Camp Hale. Here, just once a year, thousands of Jeep owners gather to experience the latest offshoot of Jamborees. It's called Camp Jeep. Here, future four-wheelers have the opportunity to drive their own vehicles. There's all kinds of outdoor fun available for the whole family. Test the power of your own, well, two-legged drive. Or climb up. Or cast about for new experiences. There's a chance to look inside, too, at what makes your vehicle go all those incredible places, and to discuss important environmental issues with people in the know. It's all part of Camp Jeep, along with getting up and away, of course.
Tom and I are going to take off and go four-wheeling with somebody else's vehicle instead of mine.
This is four-wheeling on the 101 course, a tutored trip over, around, and across the typical obstacles and terrain you encounter off the pavement.
How did it go?
Oh my God, it was great. How was it for you?
It was excellent. I learned a lot of things. Tomorrow when we go out, we'll take the Grand Cherokee out.
Hi folks, I'm Gary Kaler with Nova Guides. Today we're going up McAllister Gulch.
Celebrating the outdoors is what Camp Jeep is all about. Last year, singing great Kenny Loggins joined the celebration. by giving a concert under the stars and taking in some off-road sights himself. Through his music, Kenny has long promoted a greater awareness and responsibility to the environment.
My sense is that the more people can see the beautiful places and feel a kinship and an ownership to it, the more protective they'll be about it. And so it lifts the pride that we have in our areas and a feeling of ownership that I want to continue to express in my music.
When will we see light upon the ocean, shining like a star, beneath the silver armor, there's a new world awaiting. When will she see rebirth?
Four by Forever will return after this.
You know, there's an irony in our modern culture. We want to have it all so that, well, we can get away from it all. One of the best ways to get away from it all is to join a jamboree, to explore those roads less traveled by, and along the way, to learn a little bit more about America and to rediscover ourselves as well. I'm Greg Lewis along the Rubicon Trail. Drive safely and have fun out there.
The proceeding has been a production of Freewheelin' Films, Aspen, Colorado.